Welcome back to Ducks Don't Get Cold Feet. We have our second season, which we're going to officially call it 2021. And our first guest, Erin Faehrmann, has come to us with talking about all things youth opportunity. If you're a parent out there and you've got some young kids, you should definitely be listening to this. And if you're a kid that needs to get a little bit more direction, especially here in South Australia, you definitely need to hear the advice that she has to offer now. So here we are, Ducks Don't Get Cold Feet, number 19, and we are here with Erin Faehrmann. Erin, welcome.
Hi, thanks.
So we really tracked you down, Erin. You do a few things that we've noticed, so definitely one recent with the youth opportunities. And I think I want to ask you how you got into that role, but more importantly, how are you today?
I'm great. I've been down to McLaren Vale.
Oh,
Yeah.
Is this, well, you obviously weren't drinking wine.
No. Our treasurer, so we're in charity, which means all of our board members are volunteers, and our treasurer is the CFO of a winery chain. And so we went down to visit her and talk about all our finances, and while we were sitting out looking over the vineyards. So some days it's a bit easier than others.
Well, you're painting the high life here, but you're not drinking. So obviously...
It's not that great.
It's not that great. And now you're here.
Yeah.
In the Drake's Media Centre podcasting studio that we've put together with a couple of staples. So I want to get into it. Youth opportunity. Yeah, I'm a big fan for youth opportunity. And when I looked into it, I was thinking, is this only for people in need? Like, is this people that come from broken homes? Is this drugs, alcohol? And I was like, it looks like it's all youth.
Yeah.
And I don't think you have any boundaries on it. And do you have boundaries, or is it, you're trying to inspire young people?
Yeah.
And that's what we need.
Yeah, it's a great question. So we are a charity, we're a non-profit organisation,
Yep.
which means the bulk of the work that we do is with young people that need some extra support in their lives for lots of different reasons. We've been around for 23 years. So I reckon 23 years ago that used to be a lot easier to work out who needed a bit of help, and it's not anymore. Like if you know young people, teenagers that don't need a bit of help, then... good on you, because I don't know too many, no matter what their background.
You're not asking the right questions, as I get told from my old man. If you think everything's rosy, I mean, it's just about
get outside.
Just about asking the right questions.
Yeah.
Do you want to go? We could. Yeah. Keep going.
Yeah. The programs we run are leadership programs, so they work for everybody, but it means that we do spend most of our time in areas in communities that need a bit of extra support. But certainly in those schools, even you see young people who are school leaders and sporting stars, as well as the kids who, multi-generational unemployment. You see it all in these schools, and our programs will tend to have a bit of everybody on each program so they can learn from each other. It's really important for young people who are really fantastic leaders in their community to, get outside and see what other people are living through.
Yeah.
And for young people who might not have been around a lot of aspiration or success to see what that can look like in their peer group.
Yeah.
So we really love to mix lots of different people together.
So we talk about inspiring youth and non-for-profit.
Mm-hmm.
Like to anyone that does non-profit, in my mind, it has to be a little bit crazy. And
thank you.
God help that. Yeah, thank God there are people like you that are actually doing this. I mean, I look at what you're doing and trying to encourage and make young people blossom in leadership roles, where people don't realise that leadership roles start like in reception.
Yeah, right.
And the kids, they walk around the school, and I got two young girls, so I can see how they are holding themselves, and you watch how they, I believe, becoming leaders. And I'm there going, when you're talking in front of assembly, stand confident. People want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah.
And I'm giving this screaming, and I'm assuming not everyone does that.
Yeah.
And I love it, because for me, I think presenting yourself is the majority of the job.
Yeah.
And then how you're perceived is only going to be by the way that you present. And most people, you only get a first impression once.
Yeah. So we definitely, part of our program, we talk to the young people about visual picture, because it is a big deal, right?
Yeah.
Like how you look, if you want to dress for success, you hear all that stuff.
Yeah.
And, we talk about personal leadership in our programs is about how you lead yourself towards success, as well as how you lead, lead and influence other people. So the bulk of the work that we do with young people is about how they become their own leader. It's a lot of internal work. How are you leading yourself to success? What does success in your life look like to you? Forget about what you've seen in your family or in your community, but what is going to actually mean success to you, and how do you lead yourself towards it, no matter what else is going on in your life?
Yeah.
And then we talk to them a lot as well about whether they're showing up in the world the way that they want the world to be. So how can they show leadership every day? If they want a kinder, more playful type of environment in their world and that's what they're missing, then what are they doing every day to foster that? Because they have enormous ripples in what they choose to do. So, you know, like you would have probably with your kids, some of the greatest leadership that kids can show in schools is when they, you know, they stop bullies or they go over and talk to the person who's sitting by themselves and say hello. They're really brave steps for young people to show leadership in really small ways, as well as, like you're saying, the kind of walking into Drake's and handing in your resume and saying, hey, I'd really love a job here. That's a, you know, different kind of leadership.
And we're a first job organisation. Like a lot of people come to us and they feel like bad. Like I just did a talk at Mark Oliphant out at Monopara.
Yeah.
And
great school.
I addressed 8 Year 9 classes, one after another.
Intense day.
That was intense. And I was practicing a keynote that I was working on. So, you know, it was hard work. Yeah. And one of the things that I got there is that people were a bit ashamed of working for fast food joints. Like, so here's got a job. And like, oh yeah, I work for McDonald's.
That's
or
the
like
best.
this. So, and I'm like, I said, do you understand they're some of the best companies in the world to work for? Their training, and anyone that comes to us with a resume that's been to McDonald's, Hungry Jack's, Subway, any of those, we look at that at a higher regard. So I can understand with us, we understand we're at that stepping stone. And for us, 65% of our whole employment is made up between 13 and 24-year-olds.
That's awesome.
So I understand we need to connect with our crew, our team. We need to make sure we're connecting to them. And we really weren't. If if an engaged manager wasn't doing, you know, this perceived role of how they need to be handled, these kids, then potentially we're just losing them. It just becomes noise. It just becomes a job.
Yeah. And what lights them up? What's challenging them? How come they didn't turn up on time today? Why aren't their clothes clean? Like, you're really understanding. As an older person, it can be really hard to understand what young people are grappling with today, because generational periods are getting shorter and shorter. So even at Youth Ops, we've been around 23 years. The things that young people are facing as challenges today are not the same that they were facing 3 or 4 years ago. And so when you become a leader in business, and I found this when I had my more corporate career, every year I'd see these kids coming out of uni. They weren't kids by then, mid-20s, graduates from university, and you're like, wow, you guys are grappling with stuff that I never had to. And unless you sit around and ask them a lot of coaching questions. So our program is mostly coaching. We coach young people. It's through inquiry. You're curious. I know you're a curious dude, so you get it. You ask a lot of questions about what's going on for them, because you don't want to assume that the way it was when, you know, I'm 40, the way it was when I was growing up isn't going to be what these kids are facing. And so trying to do things the way I reckon they should be done isn't necessarily going to be the right way.
And case in point with Ollie here, he'd probably get sick of it, but you're always trying, what are you doing? You're doing this. Are you playing this? Oh, this is what the games that the kids are playing. They're playing online. They're playing on Twitch.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And I that's how I learn, by asking those questions.
Yeah.
And it's not only him that gets hammered, it's when I'm in stores.
65% of your employees are getting hammered.
now the majority of the team are coming up to me now and saying, hey, I like that piece of content that you put out. I like how you're doing now. I feel more connected with the business. And that's something that we've done. And we know that's an amazing pedestal to hold, is that we're finally engaging with the majority of our workforce.
Yeah, that's great.
I love it. And that's in that little environment. One thing I learnt from Mark Oliphant is some of the feedback was some of the difficulty is actually getting the kids to school.
Yep.
And some of the kids see school as their safe place compared to what's at home.
Yep.
And after being there the whole day, that blew my mind away.
How confronting was that, hey?
Yeah, and I was like, you know, and people say, you're born with a silver spoon in your mouth. Like, I've got this my whole life. I went to a private school because Dad, for him, he left school in year 9, year 10, he left school, and the only thing he wanted was his kids to have an education. I'm not a school fanatic. I passed. I did what I had to do, right? Because I knew he'd spend all of this money, which he didn't have back in those days, and I knew it would be important down the track somewhere along the lines. And it's interesting now that it has helped. But being in that example and seeing it was a real eye-opener.
Yeah.
And that really made me, because I put my hand up, I want to be on some inspiring leaders program.
Yeah.
I think. And I said,
I
I don't know what it's called,
Do
but
it.
they hit me up like 2 weeks before the frigging thing. And I said, I'll do it. And then I gave them advice and I left. I said, why don't you just give me one session and give all the kids in the one place so I don't have to do the same thing 8 times. Because it wasn't just me, it was other people. There was gym guys there, there was a DJ there, there was a whole mixture. So,
awesome.
So when you're talking about what it takes for youth, inspiring youth.
Yeah.
So what led you to those decisions? I mean, what was your youth like when?
For me personally?
Yeah, like when you were, because you've been doing this for 23 years. You look 33. So you started this when you were 10.
Oh, I did not start this company. This is not my brainchild. Right. No. Okay. There's an amazing man called Peter Marshman, and he Burns for Blinds was the business that he ran, and he actually started basically this program for his employees, similar to you. And a large percentage of his workforce were very young people, and he was trying to get them into sales and working in teams and working with customers, and finding that they didn't have the confidence to actually do that. A lot of it comes down to confidence. Number of kids I talk to, we've got to start them at confidence. And so he started an in-house program. This is 20-something years ago, and really, really successful with that and with that business. And fast forward, he sold the business and started the charity, because I reckon I've got to go back into schools and start running these programs in schools. And so Peter Marshman founded our organisation 23 years ago. And we've obviously evolved a lot. As I said, things have changed a lot. We've got online programs now and all sorts of things. But that's still very much where our heartland is trying to help young people, give them the opportunities to stay in school, whether they want to or not, stay in school, go on to further educational careers and work out what they want to do with their lives. So it's a really strong focus on employability skills. Sometimes they call them soft skills or building resilience. But for us, it's about building the confidence and the habits and the tools for them to go forward. So I got involved because actually one of my best mates is a graduate. She's in her 30s now and she's got kids. And we were actually set up on like a blind date by my sister, because she went, you guys will just so get along. So you should meet. And we got set up as friends. And she actually is a graduate who then went on to work at Youth Opportunities before she had her kids. And I met her when she wasn't working there. But she would just go on and on about this program and these concepts. And she's so empowering and a fantastic, bubbly person. And I just fell in love with youth ops through her. Yep. I was doing my MBA in my corporate world and got volunteering with Youth Opportunities with the boards. I did a lot in strategy development and board succession planning. So I started volunteering in the organisation, went on to the board for a couple of years. And then Peter Super Carey, he was the
footballer.
Yeah.
Glenelg.
His previous CEO before me. And so I was on the board while he was the CE. And Pete, bless him, he'd come out of retirement to help out Peter Marshman and run this company for a while, this charity. And he tried to retire a few times and hadn't quite worked out. And so because I was a bit of a known entity, I'd been on the board a few years, I said, would you quit your corporate job, take a pay cut and come run the charity? And I said, sure.
Sounds like a great idea.
He needs money. That sounds great. So I guess that was like maybe 2.5 years ago or so, and I got to shadow Pete for kind of six or so months and learn from the great man, and then came in as the CEO.
So you were born in Queensland?
Yeah.
Central Queensland?
Yeah.
So, like, not Longreach?
Middle of nowhere. Near Longreach.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay. Normally people
worked
go
in
Central
Queensland for 10
Queensland.
years.
Do you mean Brisbane?
Yeah.
No, mate. There's a lot of land out there.
There's funny story, when we first started, when we first had stores in Queensland, the payroll, wasn't payroll, it was the bag run, it used to call it in NSA, and they go, we could just take the bag up to Bundaberg, up to Rockhampton, can't you? And I'm like, the bag run would take 12 hours in a car. Like, but it doesn't look far on the map. I go, yep, it doesn't. I said, do you imagine dropping that bag off from Adelaide to Melbourne? So I understand how it's a big thing. So
a lot of land.
You were with SA Water before for 15, 17 years.
Yeah.
That's a big chunk of time. So you obviously enjoy being in the one role. You don't seem you're a bit of you were a bit of a nomad before that.
14 roles at SA Water. I'm a loyal bunny, I guess that's the thing. So I was at SA Water a long time. But it's a huge company. It's 2,000 people in that company, probably less now, but back when I was kicking around.
It's probably the same, but
And so I had, I don't know, 11 or 14 jobs or something. So I just got known for being a generalist, which is like there's people write books on being a generalist now as Range and all these other books about how powerful that can be. But I just got known in a company full of specialists for being a generalist. You got a problem, you get Erin in, she runs it for 6 to 12 to 2 years, 6 to 12 months or 2 years. And then I Mary Poppins'd out.
Yeah.
I'd come in, I'd fix things up, I'd get people working, then I'd move on and someone else would come in. So I did all sorts of things.
You're like the equivalent of like when someone kills someone, they call a fixer to come in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's you.
Yeah, I find all the guts and I scrape them up.
Yeah.
No.
And then leave.
No. Well, because originally I trained in IT. So I have an IT background.
What, back like a long time ago?
Oh, I'm 40 now. Yeah, it's been a while, like 20 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just flagging. I thought you were 30. God,
No,
40, my figures are
No,
wrong.
this is just what happens when you smile a lot. You're playful.
That's pretty funny.
People
I
think
like
you're like
it.
20 years younger. No,
Trust me, it's my life. I
know.
They still think I'm a kid,
You're
and I
12,
love it. Yeah,
JP,
I love
how
it.
do you have two young girls? I trained in IT, and it's just one of those roles where you sit between the technologists and the business, and you get really good at translating between specialists
Role.
solving problems that are new. And from there, I just kind of went everywhere in the business. I just never ran out of places to play.
Yeah.
I think the only area I didn't work in was laboratories because I'm not a scientist, so you don't mess with that stuff. But pretty much everything else I got to do.
So before that, you were at the Australian Dance Theatre Co.
Well, actually, I volunteered quite a lot while I was at SA Water.
Okay.
So I had, I took a sabbatical actually while I was at SA Water for 3 months and volunteered in the arts in the Fringe Adelaide Festival and Australian Dance Theatre Company. So that's why I was there for a little while.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you just left and came back to Australian Theatre to SA Water?
Yeah, I just took 3 months unpaid leave.
Yeah, as you do.
And just went off on a sabbatical and played and
it's good.
It's great. Well, I didn't have children myself. So I had all this long service leave that normally women of my age would have to take or chose to take when they go and have babies, and I hadn't had babies. So I thought, beauty, I'll just go on a 3 month sabbatical.
Okay.
And to be honest, it was advice I had from a career counsellor. So I was maybe 15 years into my time at SA Water, starting to think, am I getting bored? I don't know. I feel like I'm having fun, but these bigwig HR executives keep telling me I've got to leave because apparently no one will ever hire me if I'm here too long, and government's got this stigma, and so surely if you stay too long you'll never move on. I'm like, it doesn't fit with me, man. So I went to a career psychologist, paid to get all the testing and everything, and she said, you know what, you don't fit utilities, hey, you're just a bit out there for utilities. You need to just go play in another industry for a while. Go play in the arts. And I said, great, I'll take a sabbatical. I'll go play in the arts. And what I realised was the arts are fun, sure. I loved it. I love being around that stuff. But at the end of the day, it was still me and it's still business. And actually, in the arts, I just felt more able to be myself. And so when I went back to SA Water in my corporate job, I was just more myself again. I realised that actually our business was ready for me to not be super serious, wearing a business suit and not laughing and playing all the time. I could actually play in that office environment and still have amazing business success.
Yeah.
So I started wearing cartoon T-shirts, and I can see here you got Avengers all over the wall, which I love. I just started bringing more of that playfulness to every day at work and realised that actually you don't have to go work in the arts to bring that to life and to have success. You can do that anywhere.
Yeah, and it comes down to being yourself.
Yeah.
One of the key goals moving forward. I think if we talk about how you got to there, where were you? So you're brought up middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
How'd that go for you? And how long were you out?
I got out. That's the
funny.
Thing.
It's funny. That's exactly what people say. People come from Longreach or, I'm out. I got out. It's like, fuck, you've been in jail. No, I've got out. So then what? I don't know. What was it like growing up? Did you grow up there for long?
Yeah, I was 15 when I left. So my mum was from London. My dad was from here in South Australia, Hahndorf kind of born and raised, which is where the name comes from. And I actually don't even know how they ended up in Queensland, but we were kind of the outpost of the family. My mum's family had mostly immigrated here to Adelaide. My dad's family around Hahndorf in the southeast. They ended up out in Sapphire, Queensland. It's a sapphire mining township. And so that's where I was born. I was born in a town called Emerald. Kind of goes with the theme. It's a place called Rivervale nearby. So I was born in Emerald, raised in Sapphire. My parents had the local general store. And we were there until I was 15. My dad had died really suddenly of a heart attack when I was really little. So my mum was a young widow with 3 young kids. I'm a twin and I've got a slightly younger sister. So it's pretty tough upbringing. There's lots of lovely people in the country and there's lots of really awful people in the country. Thankfully, I didn't experience as many awful things as a lot of kids I grew up with, but it certainly opened my eyes to a lot of the trauma that can go on for young people in their early years, which isn't just regional. It can happen in metro as well, obviously.
Yeah.
I grew up around a lot of alcoholism, some domestic violence, all the things you don't really want to grow up around.
So this was all, what sort of age were you seeing this?
From like 8, I guess, is what I really remember.
Yeah.
Well, probably the whole time, but I don't really remember it all that much. But you know, on the plus side, people who grew up in the country like I did, it was a mining town. We didn't have sealed roads, so I'm shit at skateboarding because I didn't grow up on anything you could skateboard on. But put me on a BMX and I can hit those hills because it's nothing but hills and dirt and rocks, and you were never in the house. You went roaming. There's no fences. We had commons where there would be camels and horses and cows just out roaming around. So like, who gets to do that? So you know, there were good things as well, a lot of freedom. And because my mum owned the general store and she was from London and she's a super vibrant lady, she also had a mental illness, a manic depressive. So when she was on a manic high, she was so fun. So our house was the party house for the community, and she was very community minded too. So she like drove the fire trucks and rescued all of the town dogs. And so we had like 9 dogs at one stage growing up because she'd just steal them from people that she didn't think were looking after her. I'm like, you're leaving that dog with me. So we had, lots of good things in there as well as the tough stuff. But I specifically remember, I don't know why, I was 15 years old and you get no TV or radio out there.
Yeah.
So it was John Laws on the radio one weekend. God knows why I was listening to John Laws as a 15-year-old. And I heard him say on the radio that the high school I went to had the worst educational outcomes in Australia. And I went, well, that's pretty shit. Is this my future? And I thought about the girls that I'd seen that were a year older than me at high school were all either dropping out of school, getting pregnant, going into like really not very high aspiring roles. And I said to my mum, that's it, I'm out. We've got family in Adelaide. I'm going to be super cool and I'm going to go to Adelaide and live with my older stepsister, half sister, because my dad had other kids as well. And she went, no, we're all going. I said, no, I'm being cool. I'm going without
by
you.
myself.
Stop. No, come on, we're all going. But I think it was probably the best thing we could do was to get out of Dodge.
Yeah.
And she sold the small business, the town shop, and we moved to Adelaide to be with the rest of our family.
So you were 5. So is this year 10?
Yeah, exactly. So I did year 11, 12 at Christie's Beach High School here in Adelaide.
Did you live at Christie's?
Yeah, we were around like Christie Downs, Port Noarlunga. So because you grow up out there, there's no water anywhere. We had a bore that the water tasted like you had to chew it. It was the worst. So then you come to somewhere like Christie's Beach and there's this ocean. Yeah. And so I'm a total water baby now.
It's like you'd be like going to the Gold Coast.
It was so much better than the Gold Coast because there's not people everywhere. Like even I surf so badly, but I do surf down at Middleton. And I talk to guys interstate and they're like, oh, yeah, we went out for a surf for lunch. Yeah, how many people did you hit with your board? Because there's hundreds of people in the water. Guess how many are in Middleton? Like one.
Yeah.
It's like one guy.
And they're not eaten by a shark yet.
I know, right? Yeah, so water baby, always lived down south.
So you turned into a water baby from being in the middle of Australia. It's interesting as it is. So schooling in SA was, normal for you? Did you find it different?
Yeah, I found Christie's actually really good. When I went there, Christie's Beach High School had adult intake. So we had people in their like 30s. And with kids coming to year 11, 12. Yeah, I don't know if they still do that. But it was really interesting to go into high school as like a 16-year-old and you're making subject choices about your life, and then sitting next to you in class is this like 30-year-old with a kid who's plain clothes, like they're not wearing school uniforms. We didn't wear school uniforms back then at Christie's. And you're like, oh, wow, hi, grown adult, mature person who's making a choice to come back to school. That's really cool to be around. And what's your life been like? And we really loved being at that school. It was obviously a long time ago now. And then so I have a twin, so we finished high school at the same time, and we were a little bit younger than everybody else, so we had a kind of a gap year up our sleeves, and my mum went off on one of her manic episodes and ended up in London, so we all ended up in London for a year as well, and I worked at a Finnish trading bank, actually, postie punky bank Banking
That's the
in
name?
London. That's the name of the bank. Yeah, I worked there doing IT and accounts for a year because I learned how to file at Christie's Beach High School as part of a TAFE course. So they were like, oh, great, you can come work at a bank. You've got skills.
Wow.
Okay, sure. What's all of this? But, they just love Aussies over there. They know we work hard and we're good people and we know how to talk to people. So
then you come back to Australia?
yeah.
So that
I
would have been
finished-
fun times over there.
Yeah, it was. I think I was probably too young to really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And we had some family drama, again, some domestic violence and alcoholism and things around us. But my sister and I used to trip off on weekends and go to Paris or go to Germany. Everything's so close. It's so great.
Yeah.
Then came back to Adelaide and went to uni and
It's crazy you can go around the world and then still want to come back to Adelaide. It's such a great place to live.
Port Elliott's still my favourite place in the world. My husband and I, we used to go overseas every year and I haven't found anywhere else that I'd rather be yet.
Yeah, I got a place at Murray Bridge and I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
I'd rather go there than to any 2 or 3 year old birthday parties. Just if anyone's listening, don't invite us.
You could host them. You could host them at your house.
No, I had this brainwave that what you should do is have month parties. So what that is any kid that's born in January, every kid, they all pull together, hire the entertainment centre out. You invite all your friends. One day, done.
Doesn't that make people feel so special?
Well, each individual one, they're feeling special. And you get better things because you're chipping in. You've got... you've got bloody giraffes and lions
Pre-made
and
party.
tigers and stuff like that.
It sounds like you need a partnership with the zoo. Do it.
Yeah.
Call Elaine Benstead. Get onto it.
Call it one day happiness.
That's so good.
I think that would be the way to go. I mean, I don't know. These guys think it's a good idea too.
Yeah. No, they're totally nodding.
Yeah. They're totally into it.
Get onto birthdays.
So then you go into that. Then you literally you must go to SA Water.
Yeah, pretty much straight out of uni.
Yeah. And then you go into youth opportunity.
Yeah.
The youth opportunity, if we go into it, I mean, you must have had some standout, you must have seen some great examples of this
amazing people
proving that, hang on it, with a little bit of guidance, a little bit of coaching, people can make their own minds up. With me and education and how the world's turning around, you can learn so much off the internet.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is changing the way the schooling should be.
Yeah, the school system is changing. There's a couple of people we talk to who are principals or ex-principals and they say, it's a good 10, 20 years. It's a big system, education, 10, 20 years for a kind of like a turn of the cog. So it takes a while and you understand why. Just hats off to principals. They've got big jobs and a lot of factors to consider. But that's one of the reasons why. So we've got about 30 or 40 principals that partner with us to come in and run our programs as a bit of an outside the box way of them offering something different to their students. So what they do at school is fantastic. And then there's programs like ours on the side that just bring that little bit, something extra for young people that need or are wanting something different. It's not traditional. So our programs, we will always run them off-site. So the kids don't go to school, they come to us instead. It's usually a community centre or a football club or something nearby.
Yep.
It's plain clothes. They're not teachers, there's coaches. So there's trainers, coaches that work with them. It's an adult learning environment. So it's quite different, but they do get their SACE points. It's aligned to the curriculum. They have to do assessments and we mark them. So it's still adding value to the education, but in a very different way. And the principals we talk to and the educators that say, you need the mix. There's, you're an outside person. The kids will relate to you differently than they do to us, but they need people who are around them all the time as well, the teachers who see them all the time. So it's great to have principals are able to get that mix of options that they can throw in and offer to their students. It's a lot of our program is, as I said, it's around coaching and it's about helping young people do that internal work that they don't often get to do when they're sitting in a maths or an English class or a history class, is actually looking at themselves and their habits and how they're living in their life. The main thing our graduates talk about they get out of our programs are things like relationships and their ability to communicate. Their self-confidence, as I said, is a really big one. And because you're working on those really fundamental life skills and personal skills, you can actually, as you said, see really quick turnarounds because it's a mindset shift.
Yeah.
And if you're sort of just throwing technical skills at people all the time, but they don't have the mindset shift to use them, you might not see a change. But because we're sitting down with them in groups and one-on-one and talking to them about how they see the world, how they show up in the world, and the ripples of their own behaviour on their success and other people's, they can have really quick light bulb moments. And the big ones, as I say, is around the confidence, where they start to rewrite their internal tape around whether I'm good enough or not. Are you good enough for this? Can I do that? What if I tried? What's the best thing that can happen? What's the worst thing that can happen? Just because this is my past or my surroundings, what can my future be? And they're those mindset shifts that then set them on a path that's complete sliding doors to where they might have ended up.
Now, you mentioned confidence. Confidence is a key character that can be built without needing any money.
Yeah.
And, they're having teamwork, strong work ethic, communication skills, and being on time.
Yeah.
They all don't involve any money.
Yeah.
They just, and these days there's no kid that can tell me, like my 6-year-old can speak to text to Google stuff.
Hey, Google.
So
I got a 2-year-old at home at the moment. Hey, Google.
Yeah, there's no excuse for it. So with me, I believe confidence is a key driver.
Yeah.
And there's no doubt if you can get that from the people, from your students.
Yeah.
How does someone say I want to do this? Do they have to do? Are they forced to do it?
No.
No.
They have to opt in.
Yep.
Like any leadership program you've ever done, you will get the best results if you actually want to do it, right?
Yeah.
So what we'll generally do is like you did at Mark Oliphant College, we go out and we talk to, for us, we mostly work with year 10 students. So we go out and we talk to year 10s about, hey, who's, loves jumping out of bed in the morning, coming to school? Nobody. Or some people. Who knows what they want to do after school? Who'd love to have less fights with your parents or your siblings? Who'd love to actually have the confidence to just walk up to your teacher and, ask for advice? If that's the sort of person, if they're the sorts of things you want to change in your life, how about you put your hand up? Then we get another student who's already done it to come and talk to them about how great it was, and they have to apply. So students have to apply, and then we interview them for 5 whole minutes, and we select a group of 18 young people to go through the program together. So they do personally have to put their hand up. Now, obviously in some schools there's some of the teachers looking out for kids who be like, Erin needs to be there. I'm getting Erin out of bed. I'm taking her to school. I am putting her in the front row. I'm putting the pen in her hand because I see the potential in her that she can't see, and I think this will work for her. But we never would force them to do the program. We have very low dropout rates because it is opt-in, because the young people hear from a peer about what they can get out of the program. Yep. And because within the first day they realise what they're really in for is a group of people and a couple of trainers really looking out for them and their best interests for 10 weeks. And who doesn't want to be around that?
Yeah.
And
you talk about
great.
Low dropout. You had 100% success rate in 2019 with graduates receiving their SACE points.
Yeah, they all get their SACE points.
That's amazing.
It is, isn't it?
100%.
Yeah.
It's good in my language, but not to mention the flow-on effect was. Yeah. These are the stats from your site. 91% more motivated towards school.
Yeah.
96% feel they have skills to achieve their goals. 91% have a clearer understanding for their future, and 96% know what to do to achieve their goals.
Yeah.
Now,
it's easy to fall in love with.
This stuff wasn't around when I was at school.
I know, right?
And now look at me, I work in a supermarket.
You did okay. You did pretty damn good.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But this is something that it's really hard to, when you're dealing with younger people, that they gasp. When you're a bit older, you're sort of, if I'd done this or I'd done this, I'm forever saying to him, dude, I was earning as much.
Don't do what I did.
I was earning as much money as I could when I was his age. But he's like, no, this is what I'm happy with.
Yeah,
and I'm like, a bit weird.
Come back to me in 20 years' time and tell me I was right.
Yeah, having kids running around. Fuck, I wish I listened to JP. I wish I listened to JP. But it's really hard to get that. And a student will only ever get that if they feel that this is something that they can learn from.
Yeah.
Is that what you feel?
Yeah, we don't necessarily tell them what they're going to do. We ask them what they want to change about their life. So a lot of the time, as I said, it's about connecting with young people and saying, do you want to change? Do you reckon you're living your best life? Because I can help you. It doesn't cost the young people that do the program or their families anything like financially, the school chips in a bit and we fundraise the rest. So we rely on Drake's community dollars and other ways of fundraising to be able to provide this free for kids. So they don't have that barrier, but they do have to put their hand up and say, hey, you know what, I reckon maybe I'd like to live a bit of a better life. And a lot of the time when you ask kids or they stand up at their graduations and say why they joined the program, sometimes it's to get a day off school because they think they're getting a day off school. Sometimes they hang out with their mates at lunch and go to KFC at lunch or whatever it might be. But after that, the dropout rate's so low because after the first day they go, oh, this is not what I thought it was going to be. This is way better than I thought. And sometimes it can get really challenging because we were talking about confidence being so critical before. One of the main things about our program is we do challenge young people. One of the 4 of our big decisions is choosing growth. They've got to choose growth. And to do that, you're uncomfortable, and we take them through that. But we set them what I call small acts of bravery. So you've got to start doing things that make you just the right amount of nervous that you can do it, and then you feel great about it. You feel brave to go the next level, then the next level. We amp them up. Yeah. And that's why the one-on-one component of the way we work with young people is important too, because JP, you might be ready to get on stage, talk to 100 people, but Erin might only just be ready to make eye contact with her teacher when she walks in the classroom, or to say good morning to her mum before she leaves the house, whereas, someone else is ready to call their older stepbrother who doesn't live at home anymore and invite him for a coffee. Like, everybody's at different levels. Yeah. So you need to kind of scaffold from where they are with these small acts of bravery so they get their confidence up, and they, by the end of the 10 weeks, they all feel invincible. We've got to the point now where I feel like I really can go out and stand at the front of Drake's and say, good morning, sir, how are you? Can I take that for you? Or, how are you? How's your day? That they can start to lean into that. And not only after the 10 weeks we see them, a big difference with our programs is that we support those young people for 2 years afterwards.
So year 10, so that gets them to the end of year 12.
Yeah, exactly.
So this small acts of bravery, that's a great way of putting in this podcast called Ducks Don't Get Cold Feet. Because we have a theory where ducks actually don't get cold feet, scientifically proven.
Fact.
But fact. I wonder how they did that, the ducks. Do you think it was like boiling and they just put they're not burning.
Are your feet cold?
And then freezing, and then just see if they just keep whack, 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 and just waddled to it.
If they did, you've got great socks at Drake's. But
we do.
They don't need them.
Yeah, that's right. So ducks don't need it. But it also meant once Drake's makes a decision, we follow through with it. And what you've just said about these small acts is it is that once you do that the first time, a lot of the pressure is released. And, I've got a mate in Sydney. I want to do a podcast. And I said, just do it. Just do it. And he's an IT guy, quite a smart dude, wants to talk about IT. I said, just do it. If you don't worry about how many people are listening or watching or viewing, it doesn't matter. And it's really hard to tell people to just do it.
Yeah.
And one of my
it's easy, but it doesn't work, right?
Yeah, correct. But it might not work. But, they worry about what microphone do you have? What camera do you have? Like, how does it get?
What if it's not good enough?
Yeah, and then in the end, you should just be doing stuff because you love it. And out of everything I do, I love doing the podcast. Like that for me, I get to have a long chat with someone, and in your case, never met before.
Yeah.
And funny enough, you shop at Drake's. We're doing your community dollar program. Like, it's so uncanny that all links together. But
you guys do lots of work in the community, so you wouldn't have to shoot too far to find someone you support, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh, it's funny. I don't even know how we... anyway, moral of the story is taking that first step, if you can tell kids, and I do that with my kids, be uncomfortable, get confident, talk louder. Like, these are all things that, when they first see someone, it's that goes with people for their whole life. Yeah. And they could stay like that for the rest of their life because no one has given an opportunity to, like you do, a youth opportunity, to give them a chance. Yeah. To say, hey, a little bit of, and that's one reason why I love dealing with the younger crew that's coming up through our team. Yeah. And putting my hand up for inspiring, what are they called? Something you sent it.
Whatever that thing's called that
inspiring the future. And to me, my goal of that, we knew we had 8 classes, 30 minutes, blah, blah. I thought if one person could turn around and work in our industry and love it, and bear in mind, our industry is not just a supermarket.
It's huge.
It's not just a cashier. You're talking logistics. You're talking warehousing. Yeah. We've got a huge IT department now. If I can get one person that sits there and goes, damn, I want to do that. That to me is a win.
Yep.
So small number when we employ 6,000 people, but hey, every youth opportunity that they can get is key for me.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that as to get started. Why don't you talk us through a student? Like, you don't need to drop names, but go through an example of a student.
Yeah, I got so many. So one thing, at the end of each of our school programs of 10 weeks, we have graduations. And if there are people listening that want to come along to a graduation, they are open to the community. So we can invite you along and you can hear these young people stand up and talk about what they've gone through and where they are and what they hope for the future. And so as a board member, I went to quite a lot of graduations, and now it's my job. I get to do it as a job, which is pretty amazing. And we did them all virtually during COVID, of course, but they're hopefully back physical this year. And so many stories. And at Youth Ops, a big thing for us is sending stars. It's one of our 4 big decisions is send stars, which is about positive communication. So we literally have these little cards that are the shapes of stars that you write on as basically showing thanks or gratitude to people. So I've got a whole wall of stars in my office that I get to look at. But standouts for me are always the ones that you didn't expect. I grew up in pretty tough conditions. I saw some things growing up, particularly being in and out of mental health wards with my mum. You kind of I grew up not taking for granted that, but for the grace of God, that could be me or anybody I knew. So, some things you see, you go, not as shocking for me, but could be shocking for others. But I mean, the one that comes first to mind for me, I was out in the Riverland at a graduation, and it was a young lady who, I think she's probably about 17, so taking a bit longer to do school, because she had a baby, a 2-year-old, and she was heavily pregnant at her graduation with her second, and her fiance's there. He's probably like 17 in the audience. And she stood at the podium giving her graduation speech about how she'd cared for her mum her whole life and how she was making changes about how she parented the child that was in front of her. I was like, wow, this is blowing my mind. This is multi-generational impact immediately. Yeah. Like, I don't have to do, my friend's in her 30s, she's got 2 kids. It's taken 15 or something years for those life lessons to be passed on. But this kid is learning and implementing real-time second generation. And as she was up there, she's talking about her aspirations for the future and how she communicates and creates a different environment in her house with her daughter than she'd ever been exposed to. A kid cracked it and came over, and she just scooped down and picked that kid up and stuck her on her hip and was just bouncing that baby while she's talking about her aspirations as a young woman for the future and a mother. And I was like, kill me now. Sign me up. This is why I've got it tattooed on my arm. Like, I just so believe in the life-changing opportunities. And then you flip that. I've been in some schools where there's kids stand up at graduations and say, one of the big things this program has taught me about the impact of my own behaviour on other people and how I create either something that I want to see in the world or something I don't. And so I've come to realise through this program that I'm a bully. And that's not what I want to be. Yeah. And so I've been making some changes and saying sorry to some people, and I've been working on some stuff. And like at 15, to stand in front of like 100 people and admit it to yourself, let alone to a whole bunch of people you don't know, and 17 other kids that you just spent 10 weeks in the trenches with is huge bravery. Let alone admit that to yourself. Like, I know adults who'd struggle to admit that to themselves, even if they had realised it.
A lot of people don't.
Yeah, and and sometimes those are the kids with all the money, and they're the school leaders and they're the sports jocks, and not always, but it can be the ones that you would not have expected. Or the fear of failure in young people these days is just through the roof, and that's why we're seeing so much anxiety and depression in young people, is that the perfectionistic fear of failure is really intense. So you see these kids with actually quite good academic records. Yeah. They're actually academically doing great. They might not have any idea what they're doing after school or why they're chasing a good academic record. They're like, I'm getting A's in everything, but I don't know what the heck I'm going to do when I leave year 12. Yeah, I'm seeing nodding over here.
Trust me, he didn't get A's. So.
I know. And you just, that is like.
Don't worry. I never had that problem, just for the record.
Okay, but it's still a problem. Yeah. And you look at these kids and you go, surely you're set up for success, right? You've got supportive parents, a lovely environment, the school's obviously supporting you. You're not like super wealthy or anything, but you're academically bright, but you are on a fast track for some serious depression, suicide ideation, self-harming because you've got this anxiety built up in you and it's directionless. You don't know what's going to happen next, and that's really risky stuff. So when with people like that, when they're on the program, we start to talk to them about where does that come from? What do you want to do when you leave school? What's going on for you? Are you happy? How can you start to think about some habits that you're forming and how they can be healthier? So yeah, just so many stories.
I definitely want to go into them, but since you mentioned it, suicide.
Yeah.
2018, and for me, I'm very fortunate that I've never thought of it. Like I'm the sort of dude that always thinks, no matter how bad your day is, the next day, surely it can't get worse.
Yeah, it's a great mindset.
And Dad inbred that for me, listening to all these Dr. Wayne Dwyer. My whole life was brought up going up to Murray Bridge, listening to self-help tapes and stuff, Napoleon Hill and the voices are still, I still remember.
Triggering.
Right? And now I listen to it now and go, oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
And never liked it at the time, but that's how I started to learn a lot.
Yeah.
And you hear about, and the stat that we got was that on average there's 8 deaths per day by suicide in Australia. And that's 2.5 times that of the national road toll in the same year.
Yeah, it's huge.
Now, I look at that and I think, that's just tragic.
It's a broken system.
And now we've got issues through COVID, people being locked up. And I don't know the stat, but I'm assuming there's been more domestic violence.
Yeah. Alcoholism. Yeah.
All of those, I know I drink a lot. But I know they've all led into what is going to happen. And they talk about a second wave in COVID being the depression, the anxiety of moving forward.
Yeah.
How do you see this moving forward?
Yeah. Well, on one hand, I'm hopeful because even just on the way here, I got another note from another journalist that wants to do an article on mental health a year after COVID for young people. There is a platform to talk about mental health issues, particularly for young people, and also employment issues for young people, joblessness, which wasn't there 2 years ago. So that's exciting. It's terrible that the problem's so big that it has to be there, but it is exciting that it's a really important issue for people, and also philanthropists. As I said, we're a charity, so really great that a lot of organisations who might not have invested in that in the past are flipping their funding or looking at it or feeling like, you know what, if this is a major community issue and I want to operate in our community, then I reckon I probably need to chip into part of the solution. So that's really exciting. There's a bigger platform, there's more appetite to talk about it. It is getting worse, and there's a thing called climate change and anxiety now too. So if you think about it, things really getting harder for young people. They are. Part of that is the uncertainty of the future. Like there's so much, I've seen kids do one of our tools is a visualization exercise. So we get them to lay on the floor and we kind of count them into a visualization of waking up 10 years in the future in their ideal life, and we talk them through what that looks like, any kind of mindfulness thing. Some of them fall asleep because they're so darn tired. They just need, honestly, sleep hygiene's a major issue for young people. I know, right? But some of them, when we finish the visualization, we say, what did you see? They're like, I don't even know, man. I don't know how to see past next year. How you want me to look 10 years in the future, like the world's burning, everything's falling apart. There's a huge unsettling issue for people when you're saying, live your dreams, what are your goals? They're like, and how am I supposed to plan for that?
Yeah.
So that is genuinely getting harder. And that's why we teach young people to do that internal work, build your own resilience and skills, and know that what comes your way, you will work it out. You don't need certainty in the future to know you'll be okay. You make sure that you build it inside yourself. You're smart, you're curious, you're confident, you believe in your own skills, and you know how to ask for help. Then it won't matter as much what comes your way. You don't have to worry about the future. Just worry about yourself and how you'll navigate it. So that can be a really big help for the way that we work with young people. But the mental health stats are scary. I was talking about small acts of bravery. I heard some research out of Harvard where they said one of the main reasons why we're having a lot of mental health issues is young people in particular, as part of our society with making everything technical and automated, is they're not having the small acts of bravery as part of day-to-day life. So the example was even one of your supermarkets, right? There's self-serve checkout or there's buy online and drop and run. back in the day when you and I were little, you had to go into the shop, you had to go to a teller, you had to maybe make eye contact, maybe not, you had to pass money over. That was an opportunity, a small, safe opportunity for someone to learn how to socialise and talk to a stranger and do something that was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I remember when my husband's kids were little, like, I'm not going up to buy the Coke, you do it. We'd be like, no, here's your $2, you go to the counter and you buy it. It's important that you do that rather than us do it. Well, now you don't have to go buy CDs, you can go to iTunes. You don't have to go in and talk to anybody. You can just go to the self-serve. So kids are really missing out on those opportunities to practice those social interaction moments of bravery. It's all being kind of taken away. So then when you do ask them to do something brave, like apply for a job or stand at a checkout and work, they're like, this is so new. It's so new to me.
I'm a massive advocate of storytelling is going to be the king of the future. And we sort of embarked on this on our stuff that we do, but people that have the ability to be able to tell a story confidently, they're going to be in a world apart of people that are just sitting behind a screen. And there are, and you see it now. Like I see it with friends and their kids and the ones that are stuck behind a screen. You know, I try my best. I do a pretty good job of it. That at our table, no phones, no iPads, we talk while we can communicate. But if they're out at a restaurant late and I'm keeping them there, then okay, they're allowed to have it, right? My rules.
There's a place for it.
But it's all about the communication. And I spend a lot of time, and I'll talk about things that we've done, is drumming it in how important that communication tool is, because I don't think everyone has that skill, but I think it's a skill everyone can learn. And learning how to storytell is I think the latest word that you can say for it, to me, is crucial about what's going to transpire in the next 5 to 10 years, because it's going to be critical how people how they tell that story, how they can communicate to if they're working for someone or if they're trying to sell something, or if they've got their own YouTube channel, or if they're a Twitch gamer like Ollie here. You know, so if they are, you talk about that, and how do you draw that out? Do you have a specific course? Like you have your leadership program.
Yeah.
Is that a module of the 10 weeks?
Yeah, there's like 35 tools that we cover over the 10 weeks with young people. And as I say, we've got an online version, which is the same kind of tools and concepts, but delivered in a slightly different way. And we do that with older kids and kids outside of school and with apprentices. And we run programs in Whyalla with GFG Alliance, who run the steelworks over there, running our program and tools alongside their technical TAFE training. But it's the same, generally it's the same thinking framework, our 4 big decisions, which are your life habits, which I can talk about if we've got time, and these 35 kind of tools. The storytelling aspect, I think, is great. And what I love about this rise in storytelling and authentic leadership, which is happening in kind of the adult world, maybe slightly less so in the younger people world. Yeah,
it's a bit more, it seems but authenticity is one of our key pillars.
Oh, there you go.
So, and this all came about because people were watching us build this they were all saying, they're going broke, they've got no money when we're building the warehouse. And I was like, why don't we start a retail wrap and we'll show people. So we were on an empty site, here we are on the empty site. And then you go to episode 3 and here we are, there's walls going up. And that was our way to let's tell people what we're doing. Let them know when we do a great job. Let them know when we fuck things up. And show we're being authentic. And I can tell you, in our industry, no one is. Coles, Woolies, Audi, they're not authentic. They're not telling you everything they're doing, where we literally tell everyone everything, other than when we have something that's a conflict where we can't say anything. But for us, what you're saying is crucial moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. And with young people too, we're teaching them. So one of the stories I remember from a young person was halfway through the program, and I was there facilitating a tool on that day. It was up in the hills. And this young person, they're reflecting on their journey so far, and she said, I'm really struggling right now on this program. I have always prided myself in being, she didn't grow up in the best circumstances. I'm independent. I don't need anybody. I'm strong. That is my ego. That's my sense of self. That's what I'm proud of about myself, that I don't need anybody. This is a 15-year-old, right? But anyway, life hardened. And what you've taught me in 3 or 4 weeks is that I need to learn how to ask for help. And I don't know how to come at that, because my whole sense of purpose and how I feel success is being independent. But now you're saying that success is having relationships and communicating and asking for help when I need it and navigating worlds that are uncertain. And I'm still grappling with that. And this is when I was fairly new to youth ops. So I took the trainer aside at the end of break and I went, is this, what do we do with this kid? And they go, this is totally normal. We're halfway through. By the end, she'll have worked it out. She's going through a moment right now of growth and understanding and unpacking herself in a way that a lot of adults don't, and we'll support her. So I said, I'm coming to your graduation. I want to see this kid at the end because you're telling me it's going to work out okay. And I went to the graduation and she'd gone the whole way and gone, I've worked it out. I used to be like this. I'm now like this. I know how to navigate my future. So that moment for her to sit there and tell that internal story of her own and be vulnerable was so powerful for her and for everybody else in that room. And me, that was like 3 years ago, and I still remember that powerful story and share it with other people when I do mentoring or if I'm on leadership programs outside of youth ops. I'll tell that story as here's an amazing person coming to terms with themselves. And it was pretty dark for a while there, but then they, go through to the other side.
Gemma had one of those moments the other day.
Gemma looks shocked at that.
Yeah. Oh, I can't do this. I can't do this. Something that the boss had asked for. I'm like, okay, no problem. That's okay.
Give it a go. What's the worst that can happen?
Next day rings up. Sorry, I just had a moment.
Yeah, don't we all? And how great. This is what we say to kids, like, it's okay.
It was so funny. It was Gemma.
Just ask for help. Funny. It's okay. Say it out loud. Be authentic. So I think at youth opportunities, like when COVID hit, obviously nobody had anything like that before, and a lot of charities, quite small, and did really struggle to pivot through all of that. And we were quite fortunate that we had an online program that we could flip to, and we managed to convince quite a few schools to continue with us while the kids were all at home in lockdown, and it went amazingly. But we all went from, there's trainers, they're people. They like to be out there interacting, and they're all stuck at home on computers all day. So I started a series. I still do them because I asked the staff last year when we went back to the office, do you want me to keep going? They're like, yeah, it's fun. I do Fresh Facts Friday. So wherever I am on Friday morning, I just record on my iPhone. Like you said to your mate, it doesn't have to be good. I mean, last weekend I was bouncing. Last Friday I did it on my trampoline. I was bouncing.
Wow.
I got a new trampoline for Christmas. Do you guys? Everybody keeps saying they want me to do a Fresh Facts Friday on the trampoline, so I thought I'd do one. And they're like, 4, 7 minutes, whatever, what's going on this week? Because you're also distributed, and it's a big, really growing, it's big for us. It's, 25, 30 people. We're doing a lot of new stuff. It's really easy to lose touch. Like you said, some people will hear, oh, hang on a minute, we're not at that school anymore. Is it all falling over? Like, no, it's good because there's other stuff happening. So that kind of, raw, real-time, authentic stuff is what wins.
And it's happening everywhere. You're seeing everyone do it. And it makes sense because whether you've got a business that you're selling mushrooms, shout out to Westside Mushrooms, like he just gets on and talks about it and just does it. Doesn't worry about having production, just films it as he goes because he's passionate about growing mushrooms. Yeah, so
love that.
When you actually see it, you can feel that he's passionate about it. Yeah, and it's great to watch. I watch it. Oh, cool, mushroom. I'm never going to grow a mushroom in my life, but it's great. Yeah, right. Yeah. But you can get that with anyone and anything. Yeah. Because the reason I talk to anyone is that someone, like, I do have a comment, I won't say it, but I feel when you spend a decent amount of time with someone, everyone has something to offer. Yeah. And the sooner you find that, I think is crucial for how your life progresses, because we talk about people work for a job to earn money to live, and then on the side, they might have a side hustle where they flip something on eBay or, or something like that to make a little bit of extra cash. Yeah. Then they might figure out that, I really love doing this, but it doesn't pay as much. Yeah. So I need to make a decision. I want to, like you did, I want to get this great paying job, or do I want to do something I love that probably doesn't pay as much, but I love it. Yeah. They're the sort of journeys that people need to take because, you just need to really enjoy what you do or it becomes a job.
Yeah, I'm with you. And how fun for me, I get to talk to young people when they're 15 about this. When you talk about, what do you want to do with your life? You just want to work to buy a Ferrari, or do you want something else? And you can still have the Ferrari. There's nothing wrong with having a Ferrari. Yeah. But think about, is that what you actually want to do with your life? And so I do a lot of mentoring and volunteering still, and when I talk to people about my career choices and why did you go into charities from a corporate job, I say, I grew up in a house made out of rocks, and I'm lucky. My husband similarly has the same values. We don't need a lot of money to be happy. We live in Morphett Vale, which, we're in a good part of it, but it's a big, interesting suburb. And we own a house now. We don't have a mortgage because it's a super cheap friggin' house.
Yeah.
And it's like 1970s bathroom and, we got old cars. And because we prefer to have really simple lives, but to have lives that we love. And we prefer, we've both seen a lot of people go through really stressful work experiences and end up with mental health issues because of the pressure they put on themselves to earn money or maintain a certain lifestyle. And particularly for me, because I grew up around so much mental health, you go, why would you choose that?
Yeah.
Every day of the week, I will choose avoiding mental health issues over a nicer car or bathroom or whatever it is, or the more expensive milk or I don't know, whatever it is. Every day I will choose a life where I have the choice to walk away from a situation that's stressful, that isn't filling my cup, that isn't delivering on purpose to the community, because that's, I've just seen too many people be too unhappy.
Yeah, and I think everyone has people in that situation.
Yeah.
It's easy to see, and that's why you figure out which one you like and I'm really fortunate. I'm in a position now where I get to have a great involvement with the business as well as do things on the side that are exciting, like the podcast, for instance. And all of it revolves around Drake's.
Yeah.
Funny enough, like I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for Drake's and the amount of people we've met by doing it. So
it's cool.
Everyone needs to get to that situation.
Living the dream, man.
Yeah, living the dream. I keep saying it, living the dream. Although that every day doesn't seem like living the dream.
No.
It can't be, because if you don't have a bad day, then you don't actually know what a bad day's like.
Yeah.
And every single person on the planet has a bad day.
Yeah, of course.
Unless you're on Instagram, and then no one has bad days.
Oh, I know, right? Social media. So bad.
Like I say to my wife, you're seeing the best thing that's happened in this person's day or year, and that's the thing. And it's like, my wife actually posts the hilarious stuff. The kids going psychotic. She'll film them. And you'll film. It's pretty funny. She's
real life.
Yeah, it's real life.
It's real life,
She's not
man.
afraid to show them absolutely losing the plot. And to me, I think that's the problem with social media. Have you watched The Social Network?
I haven't yet. No, my husband has.
Oh my God,
so
that's
I
like
don't
my
watch the
favourite
news.
movie.
My husband does all my news watching for me. Then he just gives me like the synopsis because I like to be positive and bubbly.
I got the wrong movie.
He takes all my negativity.
No, Social Dilemma.
Oh yeah, no, that's the one I meant.
Yeah,
but it's like the Netflix documentary.
One of my favourite movies. I'm just saying. Oh, I love that actor. What's that guy's name? The dude, the Jesse something.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
There you go.
He's so cool. So when you watch this, you need to watch The Social Dilemma, because to me, the way that explained, well, I think a JP rate. Did we do a movie review on that? Yes, we did. So you can save yourself some time.
That's way shorter version.
Yeah. Yeah, 5 minutes, done. But that simplifies the problem we have.
Yeah.
And what it really does, it shows how it is what's that? What, infiltrating? Oh, I don't know.
Infiltrating.
Yeah, infiltrating. It shows how it's infiltrating all the young kids that we don't even see.
Yeah.
And we've been lucky enough here. We had a cybersecurity expert that we can't say his name, but he said no kid of his is allowed to be in their room on their screen.
Yeah, right.
And his oldest is like 15 or something.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, because it's
the
what
risks.
you can't see. Yeah, he more than know the risks. Yeah. So for me, that's a big part of the mental. And if you want to see how it works, watch Cobra Kai. I don't know if anyone's...
Oh, we are so Cobra Kai fans.
Oh my
Don't
God.
you worry about that,
and
my
you just
friend.
see like the texting going around the school.
Yeah.
Like for me, no
That's
phones
real.
at school. So we never had a phone. Like there was no such thing as a mobile phone at school.
I don't know about you. I remember my first interaction with the internet.
Yeah, I do. And you had to do it every freaking time. And someone send you a picture, more than likely porn, and it started to come out. And then your mum comes into the room, you're like, shit, you had to stop it. And you'd been trying to download it for half an hour.
I know, right? They're real scars.
I don't know how I got to where
Real
I am.
scars.
So when you look at how you watch these shows like that, 13 Reasons, you watch them, you think, shit, is it that bad? And it can't be that bad, can it?
It can be.
He would have got picked
It can
on.
be worse.
Surely people were picking on you at school.
Yeah, but like the mental health, like my mum, she works with like special needs people at like, Sacred Heart
every day.
So she
sees
like
some
people
tough
with
stuff.
medical records, and she said to me, it's like unreal the amount of medication that people.
Yeah, it's tough stuff out there.
Don't get me started on medication or anything that alters you and people that say you don't know. anything that alters the natural state of the human,
Yeah.
it needs to be looked at.
Yeah.
And that's why mushrooms, JP10, life cycle, just saying if anyone wants to buy some mushrooms. But this stuff here changed my life. Like,
That's
it
great.
literally got me off coffee because of the energy.
Yeah.
So for me, it's finding what works for me.
Yeah.
And someone goes, it could be placebo. Whatever it is, it works.
Yeah.
So it's the mind is more powerful than any other thing
Yeah.
you're going to attack at it.
And everybody will be different and ready for different things. The great thing is that because you have a curious mind, you keep searching and thinking rather than just taking for granted that because my parents I was one graduate I was talking to recently, she's going through a mental health challenge. She's second year uni. So she was disengaged from uni, which was an issue because she's on one of our scholarships. So we were saying, how do we get you back re-engaged with uni? You're going through a tough time right now. And she had been high distinction average, first person in her family to go to uni though. And so, she didn't have anybody in her family who'd walk that path, could encourage her. The way you said to Gemma, it's all right, you're having a bad day, it'll be okay. She had no one in her family who knew that it would be okay or not. And I said, have you talked to your family about your challenges, got some advice? And she said, yeah, I did. And they all said, yep, that's life. We've all got depression and that's life and you get medicated and geez, if you work out anything better, let us know.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. So she's a pathfinder. She's the first person in her family and she's lost count of the number of siblings she has. She's not sure how many anymore. But anyway, she's got a lot of siblings. She's the first in that family to show that there could be a different way and to be curious. And maybe you can look around and find some mushroom drops and maybe that'll work for you instead. Try it, see what happens. Yeah.
I have no doubt. I don't know why. They're things on the planet for reasons, and mushrooms, and they're not psilocybin mushrooms, if anyone's wondering, but I think they definitely are. There's definitely an avenue for those for increasing your brain capacity. But when you look at it, there's things on the planet for a reason. Mm-hmm. And where it's plant-based medication, anything like that, it needs to be used because they've been here for a long time. Mushrooms have been around forever.
Yep.
And you see that and you think, why don't more people, the first thing doctors seem to do is prescribe, like, kid's got ADD, give them some Dexies or whatever. And I look at it, I think, fuck.
It's got to be a better way.
Yeah. And are people becoming more aware? And I think people are sort of saying
the internet helps. Like, my sister was a nurse. She's my twin sister, mainstream nurse, and she had some kids that had eczema and all sorts of skin issues, and she started thinking there's got to be a better way. This system is not working for my kids. And now fast forward, 7-8 years, she's got her own business called Nurtured Wildlings, and she does all alternative practices. Yeah. And there are alternative food sources, and there's Reiki, and there's all sorts of different things. She has cacao circles that she gets this stuff in from Guatemala. It's just chocolate, man. Like, who doesn't want to sit around and drink chocolate? Yeah, there's so many different alternatives, and she's a curious mind. She explores. She has a medical, nursing background, so she understands the theoretical underpinnings of the body and the chemical reactions and how it works. But now she can take that and adapt that into alternative ways of working and building villages of people who support each other. So, I think the internet definitely, the amount of time she can spend on the internet exploring globally what people are doing. I mean, we grew up in a world where you couldn't go to the internet. Yeah. You couldn't find that stuff out. I mean, I still remember my mum telling me when my dad died of a heart attack when I was 8, and she told me years later that, we were in a town that didn't have a medical centre. It was like 300 people. So the Royal Flying Doctor Service would come in, and she said she had really bad depression after he died and alcoholism and other issues, and she went to the doctor to say, look, I'm not coping. I got 3 little kids. I got a small business. I'm not coping here, man. And he's like, you'll be right. Just drink more vodka. Now we're talking the 80s.
Yeah, times have changed.
That's a long time ago. Yeah, but that was the prescription.
Well,
And could she go to the internet and find a help forum of other young widows who had better advice, or Google it, or get onto telehealth and tele into some better doctor in Brisbane or something for an alternative opinion? No, she's like, well, you're the expert. I guess that's what I'll do.
But that's the advantage of technology and embracing technology. They're saying that a lot of jobs now won't even be around in 10 years' time. Yeah. That's why, for me, what is the importance of getting a uni degree? What is the importance of learning things that are generally outdated? Yeah. And by the time you get into the real world, and a lot of people say, Ollie will probably agree with me. Ollie loves chats on that podcast. But how much stuff have you learnt at uni that's actually been practically you've put into what you do here?
Yeah.
almost zero, right?
Yeah, I've got 3 degrees. That's not been my experience at all. I've loved it.
Yeah, so
I'm sad for you, Ollie. That's a waste of time, man.
Yeah, I don't want to get into.
Tough,
Are you out of that school yet? Can I say this
Have
story?
you finished?
I've still got.
All right, this is one of his
still in.
lectures. If he's listening to it, he had an opportunity to earn money and do a paid job, and his lecturer was like, "No, you've got to come into uni and be here." Even though it's like,
where's the
who-
flexibility?
Who the hell does? Who does that?
Yeah,
Like,
well-
I want to work, I want to earn money, get told no.
And diversity of
or you
experience.
won't pass. I won't pass you. Is that
Yeah.
that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm all for diversity of
we
experience.
can't
I mean,
say
we even,
much about
we
him
have
until he
scholarship
leaves.
all our graduates can apply for scholarships. We give away about $100,000 a year in scholarships after these graduates are finished, and it's towards whatever will help them with their career or education success. So we buy a lot of laptops.
Yep.
We buy a lot of driving lessons because
Yep.
they are really key enablers for young people that they can't otherwise get
Ollie,
access to.
Ollie should
Get some
apply.
driving lessons.
He should apply for that. Yeah, he still doesn't drive.
So really
Still doesn't drive.
practical
We drive him around.
barriers, do you?
We're the taxi.
Ollie, don't ever get your license, mate. You've got it set. So really practical barriers to remove for them. As part of that process, I have to say why that is an issue for them. I don't even know how I got onto this. How did we start talking about scholarships?
Well, it's
What was
something
I
you
saying,
give away.
Ollie?
No,
I don't
no,
know.
we're just talking about scholarships. How
remember now.
there's money to go to the students
Yeah, I know.
that once they finish their course.
I'll listen back later and I'll go, that's where you were headed
All
with
right,
that.
forget that. So,
Kids are up against it, all right?
yeah. I guess it's all what you make of it. But I guess I have a couple of questions here.
Hit me.
And we're actually been going for an hour and a half, haven't we? Hour and 20?
Yep.
Yeah, so I've got some hard-hitting questions.
Go.
You've been pretty easily led along here. If you weren't doing what you're doing now, what would you be doing? Where money's not an issue, you could do whatever you liked.
I'd be playing
Playing what?
anywhere. I don't know, playground probably. Trampoline.
Okay,
with kids.
cool. All right, cool.
I don't know. So I love to play. I have this little side hustle called Lead with Play. And it's all about how the future of leadership in business is playfulness. And this is why I like you, JP, because you play. And I think that does bring the best out in people. It does the things we talked about. It brings down barriers of confidence. It stops people feeling like they have to be perfectionists. It teaches them how to work together. So I literally just love to go out and play. Lunchtimes I'll go find a swing and just swing for a bit and look at the sky. I'd be playing all day, every day.
Let's go. The Erin day. So
Play day.
If there's something now, so what do you wish you'd known when you'd first started moving into this wide world? And what's your advice to people that are first coming out to work, whether it's in like a youth opportunity or whether they're coming out? What's your best bit of advice that you could give that you know now that you actually didn't know when you were 16 or 18?
My advice is definitely get mentors and coaches. That's always put me in good stead. Find people to talk to about whatever you're going through who'll give you advice, and you don't have to take all their advice, but try and get people around you who will look out for you. On the tough day, say it's okay to have a tough day. When you're stuck, you're finding something new. Your boss, you might end up with a new boss and you hate him, you're not getting along. You need to go talk to someone about, what is this about? And people who might tell you, it's time to move on. You need to move on to somewhere else, because the external view of yourself is, for me, has always been really powerful. And the act of talking out loud to someone, answering questions and thinking out your problems, for me, is really powerful. Like, some of the time you don't even need them to do anything but listen. You've solved the problem by saying it out loud. And especially as the future of work gets more uncertain, and as you said, the jobs that these young people are going to go into don't even exist yet. Like, you can't rely on as much those technical answers. Like, where's the book? Google it. There's the answer. If it was that easy, just Google it. You'd be fine. You don't need anyone. Just Google it. That's what I did in my first job. I just put people on hold and Googled the answers and then told them what I found. That was me for 2 years on a help desk. That was my IT help desk career. Wait a second, I'll just Google that for you. So humans, talking to humans, asking for advice, finding mentors has always put me in really good stead. That's what I tell them to do.
Some great advice in that. Now, this is the last. This one's the toughest question. It stumps a lot of people. A lot of people do have a problem with this question. So, if you died and came back as a board game, what board game would that be?
Yahtzee.
Wow. That was
Yahtzee.
a quick... Explain Yahtzee.
I don't
it's you roll the dice.
It's 5 dice in a cup.
Yeah. And you throw it somewhere.
Throw them around.
And you move your way around the board?
No, with Yahtzee see, Gemma's like, no, he just obviously doesn't know Yahtzee. She knows Yahtzee, I can tell. Yeah, you get, so there's 5 dice in a cup, you shake them up.
It's debatable.
I grew up on Yahtzee, pretty simple stuff. It's noisy. Like you shake them in that cup and you can make it as noisy as you like. So that's kind of fun. Who doesn't love that? Like 5 dice. And then you throw them out and you don't know what you're going to get because it's a game of chance. Like you're shaking them in a cup, you can't load it. So you don't know what's going to come. And then from whatever lands on the table, you have to make the best of. So in Yahtzee, you can have like 1 of a kind, 2 of a kind, 3 of a kind, full house, pairs, Yahtzee. Gemma's just done Yahtzee for me. Thank you, Gemma.
I just Googled it.
Yeah. So I don't know. Well, I grew up on it, but I think I like it. It's loud. You don't know what life's going to throw you, but you got to make the most of whatever comes. But there's also some structure there. I just used to love playing it because I know my mum, stop that bloody shaking.
That is so cool because you've actually put the analogy too. You don't never know what's gonna come at you from life. I've never played Yahtzee. Have you?
It's a good one for the kids too.
Wow.
Even Ollie's. Come on.
He doesn't get to say that too often, trust me.
Do you stock it in store?
Well, I don't know. I'm curious
check the
now.
warehouse.
I'm curious. I'm going to be into that.
Go find Yahtzee.
So thanks very much, Erin, for coming in.
Pleasure.
And talking about youth opportunities. Obviously, we're going to put all your links in wherever this is going to be heard on the podcast.
Awesome.
And we do a YouTube video if people really have nothing to do. Like someone's sitting there watching you and me talk about this.
Prescribed university viewing? Or Ollie, is that what you had to watch at uni?
Well, they can take it whatever stream or medium they want to take it in, they can do that. But it's fantastic to see that someone is more than just thinking about actually going on the front foot, giving youth opportunity such a bigger opportunity and things that were never around in my day, or not that I'm aware of. Yeah. And it's interesting that you can. It's not interesting. It's fascinating that you can actually change the way that people grow up and whatever industry they want to go in. It can come from your courses, which is totally amazing to me. I congratulate you for that. Thank you very much for coming in. It's been very entertaining, and we've been chatting about.
It's been team effort today. Everyone's got involved.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, everyone's been involved. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.